Hello, very good morning and a warm welcome, everyone. Let's start this session today by welcoming our esteemed guests and speakers. Young Brucer Puan Zaleh Abu Bakar, General Manager, Malaysian Technical Standards Forum Berhad, MTSFB. Young Brucer Encik Ernie Yusri Muhammad Yusof, Technical Code Draft Lead. Young Brucer Puan Raihan Rahmat, Assistant Director, Infrastructure Coordination Department of MCMC. Young Brucer Encik Nozali bin Muhammad Rosali, and Young Brucer Encik Rohaizat bin Embong. Subject matter experts from RNF Working Group, our panelists for today's Q&A session. Members of the RNF Working Group, representatives from the Ministry of Communication and Multimedia Malaysia, MCMC, representatives from the government agencies, representatives from the industry, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the public engagement session for the draft technical code on radio communication network facilities, minor infrastructure facilities, or MCI. I'm Ratnam, the chairman of the Radio Network Facilities Working Group and your moderator for today's event. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook. I hope everyone is geared up for the session today. Don't forget to click the like and share button so that we can share this session with our colleagues and friends who would like to join us as well. Please feel free to say hi to everyone by leaving a comment in the live event page. To register your attendance, please scan the QR code displayed on the screen or click on the link provided in the Facebook Live pin message. Please select your name from the drop-down list in the form. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the course of the event of the day, I would like to invite Young Brucer Encik Muhammad Nor Zame Mathaib to lead the prayers or Doha recital. Over to you, Encik Zame.
Thank you, Mr. Ranam. Let us start the doa with Al-Fatihah recital. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Segala puji bagi Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, Tuhan sekalian alam. Selawat dan salam ke atas junjungan besar Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam dan ke atas keluarga serta para sahabat baginda sekalian. Ya Allah, kami ingin merafakkan kesyukuran kepadamu atas pertemuan kami pada hari ini. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hambamu ini sentiasa bersyukur terhadap rezeki dan kurniaanmu. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah Tuhan yang Maha Memberi. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, kami berhimpun hari ini untuk menjayakan majlis MTSFB Public Engagement Session for Draft Technical Code on MCI. Maka kau pemudahkanlah majlis ini supaya ia berjalan dengan lancar. Kami ingin menimba ilmu sebanyak mungkin supaya kami mampu memperkembangkan potensi kami sehingga menjadi hamba-Mu yang Kau redai. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, kurniakanlah ilmu kepada kami. Kurniakanlah kesihatan yang baik kepada kami. Kurniakanlah minda yang cerdas kepada kami. Kurniakanlah hati yang tenang kepada kami agar dapat kami mempelajari ilmu yang bermanfaat. Sesungguhnya Engkau Tuhan yang Maha mendengar lagi Maha mengetahui. Ya Dzal Jalali wal Ikram, kami memohon kepada Engkau, Ya Allah, bantulah kami dalam menghadapi segala cabaran, terutama dalam mengharungi pandemik COVID-19 ini. Ringankanlah juga segala beban kami. Ya Allah, berkatilah segala usaha-usaha kami di dalam menjadikan organisasi MTSFB ini sebagai sebuah organisasi yang cemerlang, disegani dan dihormati oleh segenap pemain-pemain industri di Malaysia ini. Semoga MTSFB mampu melahirkan dan mengeluarkan technical code yang berguna dan juga bermanfaat buat seluruh pemain-pemain industri komunikasi dan multimedia Malaysia di masa ini dan juga di masa akan datang. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Over to you, Mr. Ranam.
Thank you, Encik Zame, for leading the prayers. Ladies and gentlemen, Today we'll be discussing the much awaited and currently trending topic, minor communication infrastructure or MCI. There are many conversations going around on this topic from the regulations and authorities standpoint to stakeholders perspective, the local communities and the interested groups. Development of this technical is an effort from the industry to gather best practices in terms of MCI and to align it with the requirements set by the regulator, the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC. MCMC has also developed a guideline for your information on this, namely the Garis Panduan Infrastructure Berskala Kecil, or in short, GBIBK, which will also be a focal reference to this technical code. But we feel the industry would like to further cover the roles and responsibilities of the network facilities providers, or NFPs, on the technical aspect, as well as the governance aspects of the MCI development. Without a further ado, I would like to invite the draft lead for the development of this technical code, Encik Ernie Yusri Muhammad Yusof, to deliver his presentation on the technical code. Over to you, Encik Ernie.
Thank you, Mr. Ratnam. Very good morning and Assalamualaikum. First of all, thank you for joining us for this public session. My name is Amy Yusri from Maxis, and I was the draft lead for this MCI technical code. Today, we will run through all these MCI technical code that developed by this MTSB. So, in the next 30-minute session, in the next 30-minute session, we will cover and outline the topic as follows. Introduction, background of MCI, about the technical code, design principle, and general design requirement and maintenance and inspection. So, next page, please. Okay. I'll start with the introduction. Okay, let's start with this MTSB. General brief about this MTSB. MTSB actually is a responsible for establishment of maintenance of the technical code, is to set a standard specification best practice for a telecommunication network. Because this MTSB incorporate in June 2004 and is a self-regulated body and also a company guaranteed by MCMC. Under this MTSB, there's about 10 working group, as you can see in the slide projected there. Will be discussed with so many subjects. One of it is working group 5, radio network facilities. Of course, with the final product of this MTSB is to produce a technical standard specification best practice for the industry. Next. Okay, one of the group is under MTSB is RNF Radio Network Working Group that lead Mr. Ratnam, and then the vice president will be from DG Encik Shafiq and Mr. Wasan from Maxis, and of course the secretariat Cik Nur Zamir and Cik Mohaimin. Next, please. All right. So here Mr. Ratnam again as the chairman for this RNF external sub working group leader, and me as a technical code draft leads. Right, then okay. So far, under this RNF working group, we have published about 3 technical code. Number 1, radio network infrastructure external. This one mainly for a towers, rooftop, that kind of type in building, that kind of type of structure. Number 2, a smart pole technical code. This one mainly to brief about the technical code details on the smart pole. Number 3, a street furniture. And then the next coming, the one that we will discuss now, minor communication infrastructure. Okay, next, please. All right, then I'll share some background of this MCI. Okay, what is MCI? In bahasa, we call it infrastructure berskala kecil or minor or small telecommunication infrastructure. But in other part of the world, normally they call it low impact facilities. So you know that we used to deploy all the small cell, micro cell in many places before. Next 5G millimeter wave is coming. So this MCI is designed to provide a street level coverage gap filler for capacity and for all coverage or blind spot that is not able to address by conventional macro site. And also not meant to replace to the existing site. And all this micro and macro site need to be coexist together and stay happily ever after. So that's why the government want to have this MCI and this garis panduan infrastruktur berskala kecil GPIBK that will produce by MCMC later by end of this year. This guideline must be read together as a reference by all the stakeholders. So that's mean this technical code, MCI technical code and the GPIBK will be a key reference for all the local authority, for all the NFP out there, for you guys to roll out faster, especially in for the micro site or the state furniture site. So next one. So maybe I can share some background lah on this guideline that produced by our government. For the past 20 years, Malaysia government has established a few guidelines. Somewhere in 2002, they come out with this GP garis panduan pembinaan menara dan pemancar telekomunikasi. This one mainly to cover about the tower rooftop structure, and then somewhere in 2020, MCMC come up with the garis panduan infrastruktur telekomunikasi GPPIT. This one aim for a greenfield area. The target will be this housing developer that need to provide a telecommunication infra for space tower, for the in building and for the fiber ductings lah. And then somewhere in Q3 2021, KPKT did come up with a new procedure permohonan pemajuan menara struktur telekomunikasi. This new procedure permohonan kemajuan menara struktur telekomunikasi that released by the KPKT recently is a new application procedure, process or checklist that to be expedite for the approval timeline and minimize numbers of the checklist. As you all know that today, the checklist when we want to submit our application for the permit for the tower or rooftop, sometimes the checklist is is more than 20,000 checklist. So that's why KPKT come up with this recommendation to simplify the whole process and checklist, and later they will introduce and do the roadshow from state to state for the state to adopt this new recommendation from the federal government lah. And then at the same time also KPKT also come up with the SOP bantahan or public complaint protest procedure, that how we want to address the public when they complain about the EMF, that kind of things lah. So that's a good thing, good news for the industry. It's just about the time that maybe KPKT and MCMC need to go a roadshow to state to present to this state for the state to adopt lah. So next, we hope that by end of this year, this garis panduan infrastruktur berskala kecil, that the one that we're talking right now, because MCI technical code will be support this garis panduan GPIBK. So of course we need to set a control guideline and the setting, design, installation for this MCI structure lah. So in this guideline and the information is to assist local council and a community to understand the requirement of the low impacts or maybe for future 5G millimeter wave, something like that lah. So that's the target. This Garis Panduan maybe by quarter 4 2021. Next, in quarter 2 2022, we hope that KPKT or MCMC will come up with the GP pembinaan menara dan sistem pemancar telekomunikasi, the new one lah. We know that we have the existing one KPKT 2002 as a reference for the tower rooftop, and then maybe next year, KKMM, MCMC and KPKT, they will work on this new revised KPKT guideline that will cover not only tower, rooftop, or other structures like street furnitures, in building, that kind of things lah. Alright. Okay. Next one. Alright. Okay. For this, okay, let me run through, share with you that the process that we develop this MCI technical code and GP garis panduan IBK. So this one, we start with identifying the problem, because we know that telcos are building the MCI previously, building small cell or small antenna without a proper control. So this need also, because there's no definition of the MCI and it's not clear in this local government acts. So that's why we discuss with MCMC, with the regulator. It's important, and then it's important to develop this technical guideline code, and then this guideline must be read together with the whatever feature that relevant to the local council act or KKMM acts. So that's the overall idea. And then we also found out that the other country also have the similar technical code, have the similar act. Like Australia, they have this LIF. Even in UK also, they have the similar technical code. Again, when we discuss with MCMC, MTSB will discuss on the category, the technical specification, and MCMC will provide the overall objective of this MCI, the definition of the MCI, the criteria, the principles. And then, of course, after we all agreed with this process, then the next process we develop to establish the task force to draft this technical code and garis panduan. We work together with the MCMC, MTSB, and Ministry, KKMM, in fact KPKT, and the public consultation to get all the feedback lah. So, and then next, after this session, maybe we will develop a full-scale implementation nationwide and adoption by all the state PBT or local authority in the future. Alright, next one. Next. Okay. Here the members join that contribute in preparing telecom. First of all, I would like to thank you to MTSB, MCMC for all the guidance. And then of course, together with us, Sarcom, DG, Edocco, Maxis, Astro, Telesystem, Time, Mobile, WeBes, a part of the teams to develop this paper. Other than that, we also work offline with a company like Huawei, MNF Consultant, and Thais Engineering when we develop this technical code. All right. Next one. Next. Okay. Of course, the overall objective of this MCI technical code is to set a general requirement for the O&M, and is also cover the design, structural, mechanical, and electrical aspect, and the recommendation to minimize, of course, the recommendation to minimize this visual impact. I will explain more details later. All right. Next point. Okay. We know that in the next coming future, more street furniture, more street furniture type. In the next coming future, more street furniture type building facade will be used for a small cell to provide capacity coverage of 5G network. So it's important for all the stakeholders like NFP, NSP, local council to understand this MCT, this MCI technical code, garis panduan IBK, if you want to roll out fast, because this requirement is important for you to understand. Make sure the site candidates are right, the design is right, and the process approval will be much more faster. So that's why it's quite important for you guys to understand this technical code. Okay, next one. Okay, actually, we talk about this MCI LIF since 2014. Only last year we are fully concentrate and start develop this paper that many rounds of discussion with all the telcos, vendors. The draft are finalized, and here we are today. We are open for the public comment, where all your input will be reviewed, and we are trying to further improve this. We hope that we will further improve this technical code and this guideline lah. All right. Next one. Okay, if you read this MCL technical code, the contents covers scope of this MCI, normative reference and abbreviation, and the terms and definition of the MCI, the three design principle that meet design the size dimension, retrofitting or using the existing structure, and then the application of the aesthetic value. Third, general requirement of MCI, and last one is the maintenance of this MCI. All right. Go to the next. Let's go to the definition of this MCI. Okay, this is quite important for this definition of this MCI, because the treatment will be not the same like we build tower or rooftop. So so there's three main design criteria set by MCMC. Number one, definition, the transmitter and the equipment size. Because in this guideline, GPIBK guideline, there's only limit to a certain size lah. So I will explain in details later. Number two, it's only for retrofitting or using the existing structure. Retrofitting mean you tukar ganti the existing, or you refurbish the existing structure to a new one. And the last, the third one will be all this MCI must have this aesthetic value lah. All right, next one. Then we go to details. First, we discuss the first principle, the size, small scale apparatus equipment, the design, the principle of the transmitter, infra, and the equipment size. So, all right. For type A microwave dish, as you can see there, the microwave can be mounted at the new retrofit or existing structure. What I mean by the existing structure is like a street pole gantry, bridge, billboard, road signage, traffic light, or road furniture. For example, let's say you want to retrofit of the existing lamp pole. The currently today maybe the DBKL have 12-meter lamp pole. You can retrofit that 12-meter lamp pole to maximum 18-meter lamp pole, and you attach the microwave or the antenna to that retrofit structure. And you also can mount that size of antenna or microwave on the existing structure like traffic light, bridge, road signage, billboard. So, but we already set the requirement. If you want to treat this as MCI, the size of the microwave, it cannot be more than 600 mm or 0.6 meter in diameter. You also need to flush mounted to the structure. And then if there's attached with the supporting structure or any bracket mounted to the existing structure, the total length of the pole or boom is not more than 1 meter. And the color is matched to its background and surrounding. For example, if the pole is grey color, then maybe the microwave grey or light brown, I think that one should be fine. Okay. Then we also have this. We also for the second one, microwave dish at the building facade. We also recommend microwave dish facade is not more than 600 mm in diameter. The color match to its background and surrounding of the wall. For example, let's say the walls in blue color. So the antenna the microwave you must paint in the blue. So same thing also, if you have this bracket flush mounted on the wall facade, the total length of the poles boom cannot be more than 1 meter, and then the arm bracket cannot be more than 1 feet or 300 mm. Alright, next. Okay, now we talk about the antenna. Any type of antenna like panel, yagi, can be mounted at the retrofitting or existing structure like a street pole, gantry, bridge, billboard, road signage or traffic light or any road street furniture. But in order to make sure this be treated as a MCI, the antenna length is not more than 1,000 mm or 1 meter long. If we flush mounted to retrofit on the existing structure, and then the third one, the color is matched to its background. If the pole or boom attached to the supporting structure or any bracket mounted to the existing structure, the total length of the pole boom cannot be more than 2 meter. Right? For the panel antenna on the building wall facade, antenna size cannot be more than 1 meter. The pole boom mounted the existing building wall. The pole or boom will be flush mounted at the existing building facade. C, the color match to its background in a color means that if the color wall is a brick color orange, then you need to paint the antenna similar color like orange color lah. For D, bracket flush mounted on the wall facade, the total length of the boom bracket is only about 1 meter, and the arm bracket should be not more than 300 mm. All right. Next one. Okay, now we talk about the size of cabinet. For this MCI, we will discuss this with MCMC, with all vendors and all telco. Then we finally decide the size of the cabinet that be allowable at the roadside that can be treated as a MCI. The size of the cabinet must be not more than 1.2 meter height, 0.9 meter width, and 0.9 meter depth, with a base area not more than 1.2 meter times 1.2 meter. And then it will be good to cover with a foliage or blend with the surrounding environment. Right? If more than that, local council will not treat this as MCI, then you might need to go through a very long process, like a usual process lah. All right. Next one. Okay. This will be quite interesting. Another design principle is integrated structure. For this C1 micro street lighting or smart pole with the equipment that inside. This design currently, I think most of the telco start using it. What we call smart pole, where we put all electronic equipment inside this smart cabinet. As you all know, for the past 10, 15 years, we have the outdoor cabinet. We only design in horizontal way. But this time, we design in the vertical. We try to minimize the space at the roadside. So that's why we come up with this design. So what we call a zero footing cabinet. The pole height, our recommendation must be not more than 18 meter or less than 18 meter. So the antenna size, if considered as MCI, must be less than 1 meter. The top section of the lamp poles cannot be more than 180 mm, and the bottom section cannot be more than 600 mm. We also consider a street light pole with a cabinet on the ground, but the cabinet dimension, as I mentioned earlier, is 1.2 meter, 0.9 meter width, and with depth 0.9 meter, and the pole height cannot be more than 18 meter, and antenna size must be less than 1 meter. Of course, the pole diameter will be much more smaller. On top section will be 180, same, but the bottom section will be 400 because we don't put any electronic equipment inside that pole. All right, next one. Okay, we also consider this as integrated structure like road signage, pylon, signage board, overhead gantry pole, floodlight, traffic light, or any pedestrian flyover, that kind of things. You can put all your antennas at this type of street furniture. With dimension of the cabinet cannot be more than 1.2 meter, 0.9 meter width, or 0 and times 0.9 meter depth. With the antenna size cannot be more than 1 meter, or must be less than 1 meter. So one more important, all the cable installed must be concealed or paint the same color with a proper type of materials lah. We also consider any type of street furniture refurbished, like for example, taxi stand or bus stand, that also need to be, that can be used for this MCI lah. As long your antenna size less than 1 meter, your microwave less than 0.6 meter, and you try to minimize the visual impact, it can be considered as MCI. So this is another example built by Idoko. They developed and they refurbished one bus stand in Penang. All right, next one. So this the third one, the design principle, as I mentioned earlier, aesthetic value is very important. There's two type of aesthetic type. Number one, concealment or screening material. So it means that the screening material should be compatible with the architectural style, material, the color scheme. So that means if you conceal your antenna with the screening material, you must make sure the color of that screening material must be same with the original building color. It not too obvious. So as long it will cover nicely lah. The second one, aesthetic value, the aesthetic type is what we call a stealth camouflage. It means that the antenna exposed, but it not too obvious because the antenna we paint the same color to the building wall, so it not too obvious to the eyes to the public lah. So it must be paint at the facade mounted antenna or treating them as an architectural element designed to blend with the existing building. For example, you also can mount the antenna to the existing steel structure on that building. So that is the things that they can consider as MCIs lah, because you try to minimize the numbers of structure, not to make it too big or too obvious lah to the public. Alright, next one. So next we go to the general design requirement and maintenance and inspection. Okay, in this technical code, we do outline all the design code, wind load speed, ball and nut. Okay, I'll give some short description for all this item design requirement. For this design code, all design material or workmanship shall relevant comply with be tested to the requirement latest edition of the standard like British standard, English, Malaysia standard and many more lah. You can find more details in this technical code. For the basic design wind load, this MCI structure and equipment shall be designed. The purpose of the structure, basic design wind speed of 33.33 millisecond or 120 km per hour. The third, galvanizing. The galvanizing coating shall be at least 610 gram of zinc per square meter of surface and shall not be less than 0.086 millimeter. For this ball and nut, all connection ball, nut, spring, washer they need to be used as a member connection shall be confirmed to be S3692. Erection marking, all members shall be marked with distinguishing numbers and alphabet corresponding to the erection drawing or bill of material. For this material, all design shall be such that not trouble arise service from vibration or excessive deflection due to use of the very light section. Deflection limit, there's maximum twist and sway deflection at any specific elevation for the fully loaded MCI structure and equipment inclusive the design antenna, accessory and the radio feeder shall not exceed 1 degree or at 1 to 20 return period with wind speed 30 millimeter second, 3 second gust or 20 millisecond mean hourly wind speed. For the fabrication tolerance, the length of the member shall not divide from its specific length by more than plus minus 3 mm. Strengthness of the member shall not exceed 3 mm or not hollow section and 2.5 meter for the all other section. Right, next one. On the site compound, on the general requirement, of course, you are not allowed to do fencing. When you put a cabinet at the roadside, you are not allowed to do the fencing. And then the other type equipment like typical telco equipment size, you are not allowed. It must be 1.2 meter height times 0.9 or times 0.9 or less. On the transmission part, of course, fiber transmission should be a key features, but however, microwave also can be considered as a transmission that can be used as a permanent medium and communication in this MCI. For the earthing and lightning protection, The impediment measure at any earth chambers connected as a part of the earth grid shall not exceed than 10 ohm. Right? The installation procedure, identify location, obtain relevant permission from the landlord or owner or caretaker of that property. That one is usual. You also need to get the power supply from TNB or SASB, SESCO or other licensee power co. On the maintenance part, of course, maintenance or to the site shall remain the responsibility of the operator. If the NFP license holder, regulator, site inspection is required to the MCI structure and equipment is structurally sound. On the site access, of course, it's important to ensure that all access must be 24 hours. On the inspection, maybe the interval between the site inspection should be not greater than 1 year lah. So, next one. I think that's all for me. Thank you, and I pass back the floor to Mr. Ratnam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Encik Ernie, for the briefing of the draft technical code. I believe it's a great knowledge sharing session. Hope this will help our participants to further understand the detailed facts of the MCI technical code and therefore paving the way for more inputs and feedback to improve this draft. At this stage, I must say we have a good number of participants for today's session on Facebook. Over 100 registered and under 100 online now. Thank you for joining us. A reminder for those who have yet to register, please do, so that we can communicate updates and future events. In preparation for the Q&A session, a quick reminder to include your name, organization, and email address with your brief question to guide us for response in the event of time constraint. For now, we will proceed with a 5-minute break before we start with the second half of the technical code session for today. During the break, we will provide some informational video for your viewing pleasure. So please stay tuned. See you back in 5. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying on with us for the second half of the event. More to come. We have now arrived at the Q&A session. I'll be moderating the discussion for this session. I would like to welcome the panelists joining me for the panel today. Firstly, of course, the draft lead of a technical code, Encik Ernie Yusri Muhammad Yusof, followed by Puan Raihan Rahmat from MCMC, they will be accompanied by subject matter experts from the RNF working group. Firstly, Encik Nozali bin Muhammad Rozoli and Encik Roizat bin Embong. Please give them a warm welcome by clicking like or love on the Facebook live comment section. We'll be taking questions from Facebook live comment page. I believe there are already a few questions there. At the same time, we will talk about the various aspects of MCI for the industry adoption. So let's start with the first question that we have received on the Facebook. This is from Encik Muhammad Nazim Muhammad Rizwan. Hi panelists, I have a question. With the specs of dimension of the MCI you have mentioned just now, is it possible for multiple operator sharing? Well, good question. One MCI structure. Is there any network design suitable for multiple operator sharing one MCI? So this question, I'll pose it to Encik Nozali Muhammad Nazim. Encik Nozali, yeah. Please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ratnam. Okay. Thank you for the question from Muhammad Nasim Muhammad Rizwan. Okay, from the technical perspective, for the MCI, there is they possible to share with one structure, which is MCI. There is a design principle that we already stated in our technical code, which is antenna is equal or less than 1 meter, and then microwave is equal or less than 600 mm, and then the cabinet is the size of the cabinet is 1200 mm times 900 mm times 900 mm. So it can be one operator with the one MCI equipment, but for the one structure it can be shared with the other operator also, but it depends on the network operator to design, because if you're looking at the technical code as mentioned by Encik Emi Yusri, we take as example as a street lighting, which is the maximum is 18 meter. If network operator can share 18 meter for their coverage for both two operator, so it can share within the one structure. But there is not possible to share the multiple operator for the MCI equipment, because we are using the small cabinet. So that means I think it's not possible because it's not good for our coverage and the design of the planner. That's my answer. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Encik Nozali. So we have a question trickling in on Facebook. As we go on, what we will do is, for the convenience of the audience, we will present it as a crawler, so everybody can read it. So we have the next question now from Encik Farbi Yusof. So he says, my comment based on the session's presentation. I didn't see any local government or city administrators agencies being involved in the development of TCs, and is biased to the industry players. Okay, great. So for my understanding, this TC should be read with GP, or I think the GP IBK. It's important for stakeholders from the city administrator side to be involved, as they are one of the stakeholders that will be using this MCI overall process regardless of design, planning, and implementation. Okay, so I believe just now we have walked through the MCI, and I think Encik Ernie can give us a quick response to this question and all the effort that's been put in by the industry. Encik Yusri?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ratnam, and hi, Mr. Farabi Yusof. Okay, to answer your question number one, during when we develop this technical code, yes, we not really discuss with the local council, but we are working because we also working with the MCMC because MCMC work on this garis panduan IPK. So what I heard from MCMC, this garis panduan IBK that the definition, the criteria of the design of this MCI or IBK already discussed with few local council like DBKL, MBPP, MPSP Pulau Pinang, and Putrajaya. Maybe MCMC can help me further to explain about how we run through with this local council lah to get them involved while we develop this technical code and this guideline.
Okay,
Raihan?
thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Yusri. Okay, let me intro brief a bit on the GPMCI, the MCI guideline. The development is actually started in early 2020, and along the way, we have approached a few PBTs to have understanding and ideas and some input from them, how we want to develop this the principle of MCI, so that we can differentiate between the current guideline and the MCI guideline. And actually the guideline is consultation session is still ongoing, and basically we have engaged with Penang, Putrajaya, DBKL, and Seberang Perai, and MP Sepang, which is we present to them we present to them the principles that we think we consider that is suitable. Then later on we have improvised whatever included in the technical code, and the guideline is already considered their view, how it can be implemented, it can be adopted at the states. So that's it.
Okay, great. So in Fabi, you can hear from the comments given by both our panelists, Encik Yusri and Puan Raihan. There's a wide coverage in terms of liaisons with the various regulatory and authorities. And I think they are, as industry players, they are often meeting up with the authorities. And in this perspective, I believe there's been a lot of engagement. So the engagements are still ongoing, and as we build up this draft to the final version, so there'll be a lot of inputs, and I hope you can also provide some of your inputs that will help us. So to the audience, may I also say this, there is a limitation in terms of characters when we present the crawler. So please keep your questions quite brief so that we can read your questions out. So Encik Fabi, you may want to repeat your question number 2 because that's not visible now. I hope you can just rewrite them and send it out to us again. So we have the next question. Right, great. Encik Muhammad Nazim. Okay, I think this was the earlier person who requested for a question. It's me again. Can we know what is the current market trend of manufacturer co, especially for antenna and equipment design? Is the size becoming smaller and compact? All right, thanks. So this question is directed to, can we start with MCMC? Maybe the regulator can give us some inputs, then we can move on to the industry players. Puan Rohan, can you give us some brief statement on this? Is there, I think they were asking about the equipment, antenna equipment design. Actually, I've seen Inche Nozali earlier, he did mention something. So, Inche Nozali, would you be able to give us some comments also?
Okay, thank you for the second question, Cik Muhammad Nasib. Okay, looking at the current market trend right now, so we are going to have our 5G. So at this moment in our market, yes, we have a new antenna which is the size is equal or less than 1 meter. So at this moment, just the antenna will be smaller to cater the 5G spectrum. So in the market, I think all the operators start looking at this antenna dimension. But normally for the equipment, there is no changes because equipment is depend on the spectrum that will use by operator. The size of the equipment will be considered based on their planning. So if they're using the two spectrum, maybe the cabinet is smaller, the equipment is smaller. So if they're using the more spectrum, so they need a bigger equipment size. So equipment is there is no changes at this moment, but for antenna, yes, there is a smaller and compact antenna, inclusive of the RRU for the 5G at this moment. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Encik Nozali. I believe MCMC will come up with this. Eventually, there will be a control in terms of the size and the compactness of the new equipment. So this will be eventually published. All right,
Okay.
so we'll move on to the next question. So I believe this was the question number 2 earlier that we missed out from Encik Fabi. What is the thin line that differentiates this TC from GPIBK by MCMC that is under drafting? Okay.
Okay,
All
I'll
right,
answer that. Okay.
all right.
What is the thin line between GP and TC? It is GP is only outline the definition and principle of MCI, which is it's only write on the principle and the governance of the MCI, and the technical code will spell out the technicality of MCI to be installed and implemented technically. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Puan Ryan. Any other panelists would like to join in to give any comments?
Okay, Rohizan. I
All right, great.
think there's not much different between GPP, IBK, and TC in terms of definition, because of TC normally they follow the whatever GPP has been right up. So very minimal in terms of difference between TC and GPP.
Okay, but okay, so maybe I hope this answers Encik Fabi from Pen Malaysia. I hope this answers his question. But I would like to pose one question to Encik Yusri. May I? Since you have now walked through the MCI TC, so I believe this is a subset of the national guideline, which I think we've been talking about just now, GPIBK. So do we know when GPIBK will be implemented at the state level? Encik Yusri?
Well, thank you, Mr. Ratnam. This one will be discussed with MCMC earlier. So we target to conclude this MCI technical code by somewhere in November this year. And then same time also for the Garis Panduan IBK that will be released by MCMC, their target to be published and released by end of this year. And by next year, I believe we will start the roadshow. And in fact, MCMC already start their roadshow, start to introduce to few state and local council for this Garis Panduan IBK, try to get their input, try to get their feedback. So the feedback that we receive, I believe MCMC received from this local council is a very positive. They're quite supportive on this idea. Maybe Puan Raihan want to add something from my statement?
Okay. Okay, from as of current, the document, the Garis Panduan is still under development, and targeted for management approval by end of this year, and we expecting that once we have received the approval, we will go further for the next level of approval, probably MNKT, which will request advice from Pan Malaysia how it will goes, to how we are going to implement and adopt it for practice at PBT levels.
Okay, thank you so much, Puan Ryan and Encik Yusri. So this would probably answer the question by Encik Fabi, and I think most of the audience here would be very interested to know, because there are two different guidelines. So at least now we know that they will complement each other. That's the first thing we know. The second thing we know, they are working concurrently to get both of them deployed and implemented. And I think from what we heard just now, the road show, that's most important. We will have a road show once the document is finalized and approved by NCMC. We will go down and we will meet at the state level and we will present again. So the session that we are doing today is purely to get as much inputs as possible so that we can align all the facts, and we have both MCMC and industry here together. So I think that's going to be very, very convenient for the ultimate rollout. Thank you so much. So as we get more questions trickling in, I have one question for Inche Nozali. I think, remember, you were talking about the telco equipment and you were giving us the dimensions and all that. So that's great. But I want to find out a bit more from you. Maybe this might be also something that others would like to know. You know, we have in-building sites and a lot of in-building installations. So under which category would this in-building installation, site installations fall under? Cik Nozali?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ratnam. Okay, looking at the technical code design principle that we already stated, and then followed with the garis panduan IBK, which is provided by MCMC. So we believe that for the in-building site, if the operator using the 0.6 or 600 mm microwave attached to the building facade, so it follow the design principle in the MCI. So it is considered part of MCI also. It's a part of MCI. Even though we know that IBC using omni antenna or directional antenna is less than 1 meter, so it should fall under MCI category, for my opinion.
Okay, I think
Because
this will be
that's
good.
why the technical code is provided.
All right, good. I think thank you very much for this input. Again, like I said, as we go out and we meet more participants and we get more information, this will be more and more clearer. So in building is now becoming one of the most popular installation sites because of the various usage. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, let's see whether we have the next question that's coming through Facebook, because I've also got a few questions from other platforms, so I'd like to post more questions. So is there another question from Facebook? If none, for the moment, I would like, okay, great, there's one here. Okay, as an urban planner, wow, great. Okay, my concern is aesthetic values. Okay, they are tangible or intangible based on different perspectives. Despite this, TC touch on the importance of aesthetic value. However, this need to be looked and studied at different types of cities, especially cities that categorize as special feature town. Oh, okay, heritage towns, as they're more stringent in urban design guidelines. Bandar di Raja Kuala Kangsar Klang may have different guidelines to Malacca, Taiping, and Penang. Okay, I believe there were some visits by the operators and they got a lot of feedback. So, can I pose this question to Inche Roizat? Maybe you can start by giving us some information.
Okay, Mr. Makdam. Basically, this question relates to I believe relates to the policies of each of the state and local councils. So despite we have the so-called technical code, we also need to somehow to follow the state and also local council guidelines to minimize or to minimize the so-called obviously the equipment to be appear to public's eyes. So technical code is just a guideline to follow through by the players, but we also need to we also understand that we also need to follow whatever regulation or requirement by the state and also local council. Take example, Penang State, they wanted us to, and most of the state actually, like take example Putrajaya or Cyberjaya, they want us to camouflage the site. So basically, the MCI actually set a guideline to the players to follow the whatever regulation that did by state and local council. Yeah, that's my
All right.
answer.
All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else would like to add on to this? Okay, no. But I remember in a lot of discussions that we had, I've been told many times that this is something very, very important, and a lot of operators are looking at it, aesthetic value. And if we refer back to our original document, the external radio network facilities document, you can see we put a lot of effort on aesthetic. So yes, in Japabi, we will definitely take into consideration, and we will customize according to the city and types, and we'll make sure that all equipments have a great viewing experience. Thank you very much. So while we're on this question, Interiorizer, I have another question for you. So since we are talking about MCI, right, and UTC is talking about installation, site installation, so can you tell me how will this improve the overall coverage? I think a lot of people like to know that. How will MCI TC help to improve the overall coverage? Interiorizer?
Thank you, Mr. Ratnam. So basically, when we have come up with the standard technical code, we hope that local council and state can differentiate between the macro sites and also micro site and small cell delivery. They can revise their process, everything in terms of permitting everything, so that it can expedite the process of overall process to get the site to be up. So that's if we have telco and those players in the industry to expedite or to improve the coverage at the sites, the targeted site. So meaning that the process need to be aligned with the new technical code for MCI and also follow the guideline GP IBK, so that there will be a so-called sweet collaboration between industry and then local council and state to expedite the process of getting the site up. So this is part of the most important to have consumer to get the better coverage. Right. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Anam.
Thank you, Engineer Reza. So I think I can sum up by saying that we will get closer to the consumers with more site installation through MCI, organized, coordinated well with the local authorities. We'll make sure we have it well installed and supporting the consumers. Thank you so much. So I have one question upon Rohan. Rohan, you there for me. So can you help me to answer this question? What are the objectives of MCI in achieving the aspiration of My Digital? I think this may be the question by a lot of our audience.
Okay, the intention MCMC to develop the guideline is to be used as reference to the local council in order for them to identify the application of communications installation submitted by at PBT levels is categorized as MCI structure. This we will expedite the approval through a simplified process. So the purpose of MCI structure are to provide concentration coverage, improve quality of service and user experience, And MCI structure also is part of digital infrastructure readiness in welcoming new technology such as 5G. So in achieving the aspiration of my digital, in my opinion, the MCI structure would support the Jendela initiative in achieving mobile speeds, broadband at 35 megabit per second by 2022. And it is also observed 100 megabit per second to be achieved within RMK12 plan. So that's it.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think with this MCI document being eventually adopted and implemented, so this will be a very supportive structure for the My Digital moving forward. And you can hear from Ryan, I think there are a lot of benefits. Thank you very much. Um, okay, I have something else that's coming through also. Um, so but there's also we have an issue with time constraint because there are a lot of questions being posed and there's also a concern of time. So let me try to wrap it up, maybe by one more question from a different platform. This question is for Inchusri, since you presented earlier. I think the audience would like to know, uh, there's a big talk of 5G rollout now. So, and you are presenting MCI TC that you want to adopt, implement. So, how will this MCI TC expedite the 5G rollout? Inchusri.
Thank you, Mr. Ratnam. Okay, I try to answer this question. Okay, as I explained earlier, it's important for you guys to understand the guideline. You select the right site, the right design, the right site candidate. So that means you will be get faster approval from the council. That's why I said this technical code and the guideline work together to be read together and will be a reference by the local authority, local councils in the future. So the treatment will be different. What I mean, the checklist will be different. Maybe the fee structure will be different. The OSA or whatever service fee will be different. We mean it because it will not treat will be the same. So we hope that when we roadshow with the respective council or state, they will adopt this and then they will consider to assist all the telco players to fasten all the rollout lah. Maybe in coming future 5G also. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Sri. Wonderful. This has been a great session just now, the Q&A. Thanks to the panelists and to our audience who posed a lot of questions from various platforms as well as the Facebook. Of course, we have Encik Fabi. I think we have a lot of questions from him and Encik Nasim. That's great. So thank you all for all the responses. Congrats to MTSFB, Work Group 5. Good job. MCMC, of course, for, as usual, being our biggest supporter. And for the panelists today, for initiating all this effort, and hope we can achieve better connectivity moving forward in all the cities that most required. And of course, we have the smart cities moving forward. And of course, we have aesthetic looks that has been raised just now, so we should not forget that. So thumbs up, good job. Thank you very much, panelists. So, so thank you all for the participation, ladies and gentlemen. Again, please join me in thanking the panelists today for the lively discussion on MCI. This concludes our public engagement session today. So let me just say a few things before we wrap up. For your information, the presentation slides will be shared on our website, and the recording of the session will be available on Facebook page. So don't worry. Please tell your colleagues and friends if they missed the session today. I know they registered. A lot of people registered, but they couldn't join us. Please tell them that they can go back and view this on our Facebook page. We also appreciate the feedback that we got, and we hope there'll be more feedback. You can click the feedback form link posted in the comment section or by scanning the QR code displayed right now. So can we have the QR code? Yeah. So that's the feedback and then your QR code, right? So you can always go to the QR code, you can scan it, and you can fill up all the details that you require to fill up. And of course, this whole public engagement, and we call it the period where we get a lot of feedbacks, will go on. And this draft TC will start from today and go on to 12th October. So you have ample time, but don't wait for last minute. Please fill in your comments. That's very important at our website, mtsfb.org.my, by the steps shown in the tutorial video earlier. And it's so simple as just download, review, and comment. Feel free also to contact us if you have any inquiries, and please stay tuned to our latest updates. There'll be a lot of information that we will share, especially on the social media and Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So we are very active. MTSAB has been developing so many documents. They are very significant. They've been used by developers, used by a lot of organizations, and we co-share with academics. So there are a lot of things that we are doing. So please visit us all the time. So on behalf of MTSFB, I'd like to thank you all for your support for this event, and I hope to see you again in future events. With that, thank you and have a good day. Bye.